What's up guys, welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Riddell, and in today's video we cover the top 5 traps of the Nescafé Frappe Attack, a dangerous and fun chess opening for white, which I honestly think deserves more attention. Here we start off by playing the move d4, and it's actually a response against the Benko Gambit, in which black plays knight f6 followed by c5 immediately, putting pressure in the center, in which case we go, look, let's take some space. And now against the move b5, we have officially reached the Benko Gambit. Black not holding back here, and this is actually one of the hardest openings for the d4 player to respond to. Usually black gives up a pawn, or at least offers us a pawn, in which case they're going to apply the pressure and fight for the win. But what happens if we don't want to play passive defensive chess? What happens if we don't want to go up a pawn to simply only try to hang on the rest of this game? What if we want to be the ones giving material and being the one trying to checkmate this king on e8 very quickly? Well, if that sounds like something you're interested, we have the Nescafé Frappe Attack, which is very dangerous, much more dangerous than most people think. Here we're going to start off by taking that pawn on b5, and against the move a6, not go with the normal moves of taking this pawn or playing b6, but simply playing the move knight c3, letting black take the pawn on b5, which, by the way, is the best move, in which case we're now going to play e4, and yet again, black plays the best move of b4, kicking our knight to b5. Again, guys, we're not playing passive with moves like knight e2 or knight b1. And here, guys, we already see a potential first trap. You may see this move, knight takes e4, especially in speed chess. Black's going, look, I don't know what on earth white's doing, especially with this knight on b5, but I'm just going to play b4, kick that knight off, and then play the move knight takes e4. Well, now we play the move queen e2, and black can try to defend the knight on e4, but we're simply going to play f3, and either black's simply going to have to give up a piece, or give up checkmate on d6. Notice here we're attacking the king, and in this instance, attacking the square of f7. And notice how this pawn cannot capture the knight because of this queen pinning the pawn to the king on e8. We have ourselves at move 10, a game over. Let's say black avoids this first trap of taking this pawn on e4 and instead just plays the best move of d6. Well, yet again, we're going to play bishop c4, offering black a second opportunity to fall into a trap of taking that pawn on e4. And at first sight, this actually looks like a good move. I mean, after queen e2, black's simply able to bring that knight back, and obviously knight takes d6 no longer works because the queen simply captures that knight. But now we can play the move bishop f4, and all of a sudden, black's position isn't looking very good because we have two minor pieces ganging up on this pawn on d6, and if black plays the best move of rook a6 defending the pawn, we simply continue with knight takes d6 check, followed by bishop b5. Whole idea being, if rook d7, we simply say thank you for the knight on b8 and continue to pin that rook to the king. And if a move like bishop d7, really if any of these three minor pieces go to d7, right, either the knights or the bishop, we're going to snatch that rook off the board. Again, this pawn cannot take back because of the queen on e2, and white's crushing this game. So y'all, going back to this position, let's say that black does not fall into the trap of knight takes e4 because of the whole idea of queen e2 and bishop f4, and instead plays a move like g6. Well, against this move g6, we actually have a very fun and interesting variation, and here we're going to play the move e5, attacking the knight on f6, forcing black to take that pawn back, in which case we're going to give black another pawn by playing d6, and then play this move bishop g5. And this is a very hard position for black to play. Now, first off, we're actually threatening to simply capture this knight, whole idea being once the queen gets distracted by taking this bishop back, we have knight c7 check, and thank you for the rook. Notice here how black can't really easily develop. I mean, if a move like bishop g7, simply trying to castle, we have knight takes d6, and if a move like bishop e7, we take that knight, distract the bishop from the pawn on d6, say thank you for the pawn, and yet again, white is crushing that game. What happens if black plays the move knight a6? Whole idea being that obviously after bishop takes f6 and queen takes f6, knight c7 is no longer a threat because we'd simply lose our knight. Well, guys, black has just fallen into the third trap because of queen f3. Notice here we're now threatening to take the knight on f6 and take the rook on a8, and the only immediate way to say both of these is by playing the move bishop f5, but we now have queen b7 threatening a checkmate and also threatening to capture this knight and then simply win that rook on a8 and the knight on a6 as well. This queen right now is overworked, and we're also threatening that mate in one, and here there's simply no way to stop both. For example, if black plays a move like bishop e6, stopping the checkmate threat, okay, we simply take the bishop off the board, play bishop takes f6, and here the whole idea is that if the queen takes, we simply win the rook and the knight as well. We're attacking the queen, we're attacking this rook on h8, game over. So what if black sees this whole idea of after knight a6, queen f3, attacking the knight and attacking the rook, and instead plays the move bishop b7? This actually isn't the worst option for black, but yet again, black has just fallen into a much worse position. Their whole idea here is that if we take this knight on f6 and then play knight c7 check, we're going to win the exchange. But remember, guys, black is up 2 pawns in this position. We would have a rook, and black would have a piece as well as 2 pawns. So we'd be at even material, and honestly, I think black is better in that situation. But we do have a killer idea here, and that is bishop d5. Absolutely shocking move. Notice here how we are attacking the bishop on b7, and we're also threatening bishop takes f6, followed by knight c7 check, and then taking the rook on a8. Whole idea being that this bishop, once bishop takes a8 is played, is going to win that minor piece, and we're simply going to be winning there. So we have a ton of threats in the air here. Knight takes d5 simply runs into bishop takes d8, and we're going to win a queen. And if the move knight c6 is played, we're simply going to take that knight on f6. And now the whole difference is that after playing knight c7 check and then capturing that rook, this bishop is dominating this position, especially both of these minor pieces, which can barely even move. We're going to play the key idea of the Nescafé Frappe attack with a3, breaking open this a file, trying to attack this very vulnerable king on d7, and I would take white here any day of the week. So I've just showed you a couple of different options that black can go with, but the big question here, why can't black just take our bishop with bishop takes d5? Well, this runs into bishop takes f6, removing the defender of the minor piece, and the very next move, we're going to snatch that bishop off the board and threaten to win this rook. And there's a bunch of different squares that this rook can go to, but all of them are very awkward, and the best move, according to the engine, is rook a4, but against this, we're still completely winning. We play knight c7 check, queen b7, talk about a monster queen and a monster knight here, threatening a ton of different ideas. And if a move like queen d8, which yet again is the best move, we're simply going to continue with knight a6 check, winning the knight on b8. I have just showed you guys the last 4 moves for black, which were all the best options. Rook a4, king d7, queen d8, and king e6. These 4 moves were the very best for black. And here in this position, we're simply up a piece for 2 pawns, and there is a king leading the charge in this position. And trust me, guys, no Benko Gambit player is trying to get this position. So y'all, we just covered 4 of the traps, 2 of them with smothered mates, and the last 2 with these ideas of knight a6 and bishop b7. But what happens if black just goes with the most popular option at the master and grandmaster level by playing rook a5? Well, here we're going to continue with knight f3, just naturally developing our pieces. And notice here yet again, black really hasn't solved the problem of how on earth they're going to get this king out of here. This bishop, if it goes to g7, we simply win the pawn on d6. And similarly, yet again, if bishop e7, thank you for the knight, and thank you for the pawn on d6. So here you may see a move like h6, simply attacking this bishop and trying to get a trade, and we're okay with that. We're going to take that knight and then continue with knight c7 check and knight d5, attacking this queen. If queen g7 is played, this queen is going to be boxed in for quite a long time, and I seriously doubt you're going to see the move queen e6 very often, just because it's directly attacked by this bishop once this knight gets out of the way. So you're probably going to see the move queen f5, and yet again, we're going to continue with our key idea in the frappe attack of a3. This king is very vulnerable. Why not try to break this a file open? There's a ton of different moves that black can play here. I mean, if a move like e4, we can continue with knight d2. We have ideas of castling kingside, playing knight e3, attacking this queen. Yet again, we can always take on b4, breaking open the a file and trying to gain some pressure against this king. But what happens here if black plays a small misstep and plays a move like queen e4 check, trying to attack our king on e1? Well, now we simply drop the knight back to e3, defending this bishop on c4. And if a move like bishop a6, black trying to apply the pressure, we now have this idea of knight d2, attacking the queen. And then the very next move, playing knight b3. Black has to be very cautious after playing a move like rook a5 or rook a4. This rook is very easily lost in a ton of variations, including here, because after rook a4, we can take on c5 with our knight. And here if black takes with the queen, by the way, guys, black cannot take back with the pawn because it is pinned to the queen on d1. If we see this queen takes, we're now going to take that rook on a4. And now if bishop takes c4, we could take this bishop, but we're not going to do this because we're simply giving black an even trade with nothing to show for it. Let's instead push and play the move queen a8, threatening to capture this knight on b8, which can't even move. If a move like king c8 or king c7, we're then going to have rook c1, and there are so many pins here here, black is going to lose something. And if black plays a move like queen c7, trying to hold on, this queen is simply overworked. We take the bishop on c4, and if queen takes c4, say thank you for the knight, thank you for the pawn on b4, and here, guys, we are simply up the exchange, and white's winning this thing. If you'd like to learn the theory behind the Nescafé Frappe Attack, click the video to the left. If you'd like to learn the Coca-Cola Gambit, which, by the way, guys, is much, much worse than the Nescafé Frappe Attack, click the video to the right. Leave a comment down below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see covered on this channel. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.